What's up, everybody? White Sox Daily back again. I'm Aaron Feely as the White Sox after a sweep on the wrong end of it against Baltimore. They kick off their American League Central scheduling with a trip to Kansas City. They get the big victory, an uncharacteristic victory here against Kansas City with the pitching playing extremely well. We will touch on that in a little bit. Um, did what needed to be done, got that first big game victory. That will be pretty huge for them in what is still a fairly weak division. They were able to go to Kansas City, win it 2-0. Colston Montgomery came up big again. Munetaka Murakami hitting top speeds going around those bases, scoring from first to home. They ended up getting a sacrifice fly in the seventh to kind of pad out the lead, get the big win. And it's a big one for them as they desperately needed to get that ship righted once again after, as we just mentioned, several very winnable games against the Baltimore Orioles back at home. Ended up getting swept in that series despite having the lead in the back half of all three games. It was very disappointing to come away with no victories in that series. Then you come back here, you get a big win here against Kansas City, hopefully something to boost morale a tiny little bit. Andrew Benintendi did manage to score after there was some kerfuffle in Game 3 against Baltimore, where he was pinch hit for against left-handed pitcher by Derek Hill, which, as many people immediately brought up, didn't make a great deal of sense because despite the lefty-righty dynamic there, Benintendi has a significantly higher batting average and OPS in his career against left-handed pitching than the righty Derek Hill does. Will Venable even admitted as such that he knew that immediately following the game when asked. It was a very weird circumstance. We're not sure what was going on there. Hill ended up hitting into the double play that ended up getting that inning over after the White Sox got two guys on base. Just another aspect of a very disappointing series in Baltimore. Maybe they'll keep this pattern up, though. Maybe we'll get a clean sweep here against Kansas City, and we'll just keep going sweep for sweep for sweep for sweep in every individual series as we go along here in the early season. In an attempt, though, to try to help out with some of this pitching ordeal, especially with Shane Smith being optioned down to Charlotte, the White Sox have now made yet another move here as we continue to look for something of what's going to go down to fill that extra rotation spot. They haven't really made any sort of an announcement yet. They've just kind of been calling up prospects. They ended up sending Tyler Schweitzer back down to AAA after just, I think, one appearance, which was a fascinating bit. I mean, he was fine. I'm not really sure what he did to earn himself a demotion already. But yeah, Schweitzer ends up going back down. Duncan Davitt coming up after spending a majority of his early career with the Tampa Bay Rays minor league organization, part of the trade that sent Adrian Hauser over there last year. Was really solid in the minor league system for the Rays. Had a bit of a rough go of it for the White Sox to begin this year in AAA. He's given up 7 runs across just 8 innings to this point. Maybe the White Sox figuring that's just a fluke, such a small sample size to this point. AAA's been so good at everything else that it hasn't really been all that important that Davitt had, a bit of a rough early go here. So we're going to see what he's got. 2022 18th round pick out of the University of Iowa. He was flying up through the Rays system. Another one of these guys that is more so using his pitch location and his variety of pitch types. He's got a nice range of breaking balls as well. He's got a sweeper in his arsenal, so that's always cool to see, but just doesn't really have that max out velocity that wows a lot of people, but that's perfectly fine in most cases. Again, it's not always about being able to throw 100. It's about where you put the pitches, how you can vary it up, how you attack hitters, how you throw them off guard, and he's a guy that can absolutely do that. So that's good to see for the Chicago White Sox. He has primarily been a starter through a majority of his minor league and college career to this point, so we'll see if he is Shane Smith insurance, or if he's going to be called up to primarily come out of the bullpen while they continue to figure out what they want to do with Shane Smith's rotation spot. The fact that they demoted him so quickly after being the opening day starter and didn't already have a plan in place to replace him is certainly a bit concerning, but we'll just have to see what it is they decide to do with that particular situation. And yeah, Duncan Davitt might be a part of it. Maybe he's not. We'll just have to wait and see. But the pitching thus far in this series here in Kansas City looked solid as they brought out all the big guns for Game 1. Anthony Kay had another nice outing. He's been fairly decent here in the early portion of this year. Got us back up to 5-8. That's good. Middle of the American League Central, as depressing as that is for the American League Central. Grant Taylor had another bit of work to get done here, and once again came in, gave up no runs. Did give up 2 hits, which is a bit uncharacteristic for Grant Taylor, but that's the worst thing. Like, that's a bad outing for Grant Taylor. We'll go ahead and take it. Still no runs allowed. Did get a strikeout, no walks. That's been the best part about Grant Taylor to this point, is he has displayed phenomenal control with the high velocity. He just doesn't walk people. And for a guy that's primarily going to be a high leverage reliever, we imagine, for the majority of this year when he's not opening, that is a trait that I particularly really, really like to see from a guy in that position. I hate watching guys come in with unhittable stuff that they just end up walking half their base runners anyway. It's irritating. It's annoying. It's usually very, very dangerous. Bummer. Grant Taylor, though, he's been really solid in control of that. Gets his strikeouts. Doesn't leave the strike zone when he doesn't have to. Has great command over where his pitches are going. He knows where that strike zone is. He knows exactly where to put that ball, and he usually puts it right there. Very accurate thrower of the baseball is Grant Taylor. You love to see it. And he's continued to come in and put together really quality appearances night after night after night after just storming through several teams, including the Blue Jays and Orioles, in an opening role. Now he comes in his more traditional sense, coming in to relieve Anthony Kay, needing one out there in the 6th inning and then pitching through the 7th inning and just carving right through that Kansas City lineup. Good job, Grant Taylor. Leah Short came in to wrap up that 8th inning. He did really well as well. I believe he got a pair of strikeouts, and that is what I'm seeing here, 2 strikeouts for Leisure. And then Sir Anthony Dominguez came in. Looks like he's going to be primarily the closer through most of this year. That was obviously majorly speculated when he was signed in the first place, is that he was going to be the primary closer. Had a rough outing against Milwaukee in that first, I think it was his second appearance, but the first save opportunity for him. And we all saw how that went. But then he's been really good ever since. So I jumped on his case right off the bat when he choked a little bit there in Milwaukee. But you know what? To his credit, been really sound, really solid ever since. So Sir Anthony Dominguez continuing to put his stamp on that closer position for the foreseeable future. As we kind of touched on this as well earlier on, but we're going to, a little bit of a look here at the American League Central for the Chicago White Sox. The White Sox right now 5-8. It's still early on in the season, but fairly typical White Sox position to be at this point in early April. But the one saving grace of this thing is you look at their division, and it is as not impressive as we kind of assumed it would be heading in. Currently still ahead of Kansas City and Detroit in the standings, despite being 3 games under 500. They're not that far back of Minnesota either. And Cleveland, yes, they are 8-5, not really looking all that hot here in the early portions of the year. There's just no impressive teams in this division, and it still leaves it up there to only be 3 games back right now. And yes, it's early, so it's hard to be too many games back. But you just don't feel like Cleveland is going to find any sort of path to really run away with this thing. And that is the one thing giving us the most hope as Sox fans heading into the remainder of this season, is just that even if you're disappointed in how the White Sox are playing, there's just nobody there to kind of stamp us out and put an end to this thing at any portion early on. This division's going to be kind of up for grabs for most of the year. And that is the one kind of silver lining to this whole ordeal, is that the White Sox, yes, you're likely looking at a first-round exit anyway once you get into the playoffs, but you never know. You never know what happens once you get to the dance. but you're probably going to have a shot at it for a majority of this season and just kind of see what happens from there. There's just no really, really solid teams here. There is no LA Dodgers or New York Yankees or anyone like that in the American League Central. It is a whole bunch of nada. And yeah, we'll see what happens as we try to take care of Kansas City. The White Sox have routinely struggled against Kansas City head-to-head in the 2020s, so we'll have to see if they can take care of business and leave this with a series victory. But that'll do it for today's video. That'll do it for this week. We'll see you guys again on Monday. Let us know your thoughts on this division down below, and what are your thoughts on the reshuffling of the prospects? Tyler Schweitzer already sent back down to AAA. Certainly an interesting move. If you liked the video, give us a like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys again on Monday.